Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us again for the Awaken Your Soul's Journey podcast. I'm Angela, and I am so pleased I get to do part two with Laura Hoorweg again. Yay! Thank you for doing this. I really appreciate it. And just as a recap, Laura is an international spiritual counselor, intuitive coach, and psychic medium. And we met a few episodes ago. I was going to look up which episode it was, and I didn't, but I will put that in the notes so people can check that out. And then, yeah, today we are going to talk a little bit about, maybe a lot about our multi-dimensional selves and how we can live multi-dimensional lives.
Awesome.
So
I'm
welcome back. Thank you for taking the time today.
Well, thank you for having me back for 2.0. I love it.
Yeah, yeah, me too.
2.0. And
Yeah.
as we were discussing, I just want to let your folks know, because just as we were discussing before we actually came on to the recording, this is a very powerful day. We're right in the middle of a very powerful full moon. And so we've got some really good energy to be discussing this whole topic of multidimensionality. So I'm really pumped for this show.
Yeah, me too. Because, I've heard I sort of grasp the concept of multidimensionality, but you know what? There's a lot for me to learn here. So I'm excited about what you're going to share. Yeah.
Okay, well, that's a good place to start, because I know you're not alone, and everybody's I think some people have their own definitions. Let me just sort of clarify where I come to this from, okay?
Okay.
When I talk about multidimensionality, we live in a multidimensional world, multidimensional space, because even if you want to go to hard physics, okay, they talk about the multi dimensions. Like they're saying there's up to 13 now. Actually, I've been told by my guides that there's way more, but they can actually scientifically prove now with the new physics that there's actually at least 13 dimensions. And the thing is that they're all stacked, and they all occupy the same space. Okay, this is where it gets a little mind bending, because we're actually living in bubbles and bubbles and bubbles. Years ago, this topic of circles within circles within circles kept coming up. And my guides never explained what the heck that meant. And I really wondered what that meant. And now I know what they were talking about. They were talking about this whole multidimensional universe that we live in. So it's dimension within dimension, or universe within universe, or however you want to look at it. But that's where this multiple Earth thing comes from, because there's a lot of people out there who think that there's the second Earth, and a lot of people will talk about things like that. But there's multiple versions of this same Earth. Some of them are just slightly different than what we're experiencing here on this particular Earth. And some of them are very, very vastly different, and everything in between. So it's a sliding spectrum. And I like that idea of sliding. Years ago, there was this wonderful program on TV. It was called Sliders. And it was about this young man who invented a device that allowed him to slide through, to travel to these different multidimensional universes and experience what each one was like. Well, the story is that his device got broken, so that he couldn't get back. He couldn't tell exactly where his own dimension was that he started from. So he ended up having to search and search and search through all these different dimensions to find his home dimension. And he never actually ended up getting there. And then it was one of those great TV shows. They always cancel the great TV shows. It was one of the best sci-fi series I've ever seen, and they cancel it, of course. But anyway, that gives you an idea. Now, what's happening? So there's other versions of ourselves living maybe just slightly different lives, or very, very different lives in all of these different dimensions. And what becoming multidimensional, as our vibration rises higher and higher, we become either consciously or subconsciously able to connect to some of these lives. And some of these other lives that we're living in different dimensions start bleeding through into this particular lifetime. Okay, so this is where this multidimensionality comes from. Also, I have personally had experiences where at different times, what we call the veil or the membrane, if you want to think about it in terms of biology, chemistry, the membrane between these different worlds tends to become either more permeable or less permeable. And sometimes we're able to either glimpse into, or sometimes even physically for a short period of time, step into some of these different worlds. And this is spirituality, but like I said, now that the new physics is here, this has actually been proven. I believe this for decades, but now it's actually proven that this is the way it really works. So I love when science catches up to spirit. It's always fun.
Yeah. Okay. So we're living these other lives at the same time as we're living
At the
this.
same time.
Okay. And so are we gleaning knowledge from these other lives that we're able to use in this life then?
Yes, I believe that's true. And different people are doing it to different extents. Okay. And different people are conscious of it to different extents. I believe that a lot of the aha moments and things like that we get, and some of these ideas that just pop into our heads fully formed, and you're like, oh, where did that come from? I believe that those are energetically, because everything's energy. Remember, we have to look at everything as being energy. I believe that those are energetic bleed throughs from other lives. Now, some of that can be from past lives, but then we get into this gray area. What do we consider a past life, and what do we consider a parallel life? So I don't pretend to have this down to a precise science, but I can see differences when I'm looking at people's energies and when I'm reading for them, what is probably more what we would call traditionally a past life, a life that you've experienced in another lifetime in this particular chain. Your past lives on this earth, they're kind of a continuous chain. But that tells me also that we also have a chain of past lives in other dimensional realities as well. And then we can also have bleed throughs from those particular lives into this one. We can talk about that if you want, but that gets into a whole nother area. But this is what we're talking about, being our multidimensional selves. The interesting thing though about this is that those times that we can slide into those different earths or those different vibrational levels, we can see different possibilities. We can make different observations. We can get more information, because most of the time these are higher octaves than we've been on before. So we can glean that information and we can bring it back. Okay. If we're consciously aware and we're being mindful, this is another reason, everybody's talking about mindfulness these days. Okay. This is another reason why being mindful is so important. Because if you spontaneously get your vibration up and you slide into another octave, you need to be mindful, because when you're there, most of the time you're not there for very long. So you need to bring back as much information as you possibly can, because that's going to help you in this particular dimensional reality construct. There's a great phrase. Dimensional reality construct. Okay, so this is an interesting thing.
Yeah.
Now, we also do some of that when we're asleep. I think this is part of what astral traveling is. Okay, this is why conscious dreaming, remembering your dreams, when you come back and you just go, wow, that was, it's like lucid dreaming, right? That was just too real. I really felt that I was at this other place, or I was astral traveling, or whatever it was. And you can bring back, or even writing down things. This is why a dream journal can be so helpful. Writing things down right when you come back. You can get some really useful, cool information.
Okay, my mind is just...
I know, that's why I thought I'd better shut up for a minute.
Okay,
I can
we're
see the
living
look on
these
your face.
multi-dimensional lives, and so we're humans on this particular earth.
Well, think about it in this on this particular earth, but it's easier if you think about it in this particular dimension. because
Okay.
there's many multiple Earths.
We can be
Okay.
humans on all different.
All those Earths. Yeah.
Okay.
Human Earth is a designated human planet, regardless of it, if it's at this octave or another octave. Okay. We started originally when humans came to this planet. Okay. When souls first started coming to this planet, we were still in light bodies. Okay. We were physical, but we were barely physical. Okay. Because we are just becoming solid. Over these thousands and thousands of years, we've become more and more and more dense. Okay. But now that we're going into, this is what part of this golden age is all about. Because as we come back into this golden age, we are again going in the opposite direction. We are becoming lighter and lighter. We're moving into more of our light bodies. And my understanding that I've been given from Spirit is we will eventually be back to that way that when we first came to this planet, that we were basically in our light bodies and we were physical, yet just barely. Okay, because we were in a more corporeal, etheric body of just light energy. Like we were, you could see us, you could touch us, and everything like that, but we weren't in this dense matter that we are now. Okay.
Right. Yeah.
So it's kind of like this continuum, and I think, oh, okay. And my guides are telling me that's how it works. Okay. You go from one golden age to the other, and you start out at this high vibrational level when you're in these really light bodies, and then you get denser and denser and denser and denser and denser, and you come down to if you look at the Vedas, the way that the epochs work, you come down into this, you get into this darkest, densest energy. Probably our darkest, densest energy would be like the Middle Ages or something like that, along that line. Okay. And then again, you come up the other side and you start getting lighter and lighter and lighter and lighter. Okay. As you move into the golden age, in the age of Aquarius, which is what we're doing right now.
And is this the
So
same as the new Earth that everybody's talking about?
yes. But see, a lot of people think that this new Earth is like this holy physical Earth somewhere else in the universe. And it's not. It's actually the highest vibration of the multiverse that we can come to. So there's ones in between. I think what's going to happen is everybody will kind of end up on their own Earth, depending on what vibration they reach. And this is the thing about ascension. Like, people think ascension is about leaving the body. Okay, that's not what ascension is. I've been told this over and over by Spirit. Ascension is really raising the vibration of our physical bodies back into that light body state. Okay, we're here to do that. Not only our own bodies, but also help the Earth to change. So as we help the Earth to change, it shifts into another dimensional reality construct. I love that, dimensional reality construct. I just kind of made that up. But you have to see that's the thing, I'm always being told by Spirit, there's so many concepts that we just simply don't have the language for. So you almost have to create language or create analogies so that we can wrap our minds around. Okay. Look at us now, even with some of the new stuff, like, we're still trying to wrap our minds around exactly what AI is. And I doubt there's anybody who can actually, even some of the scientists that are involved in it, can actually really explain sort of the top end, what AI is really going to be when AI becomes conscious. Okay. Because then what is AI? If AI becomes conscious, artificial intelligence becomes conscious, the definition of conscious is it becomes a being. Okay. It literally becomes a being, because that's how we define a being. It's something with consciousness. So you see, you get into you go down all these rabbit holes. So that's what I mean.
Well, and I kind of get, like, if we really want to throw it out there, we are all energy, and energy is indestructible. You can transform it and you can change it.
Yeah, you can't create it or destroy it. Yeah.
Right. So no matter what happens to us on this earth plane or any plane, we continue
Yes.
regardless. So
Yes.
in the
It
end,
all depends on how you look. Yeah, it all depends on how you look at it, right? It
you
really
know,
does. And the other thing is the energy of this earth is shifting all the time. Okay. And the earth itself, Gaia, if we want to look at it, Gaia is a being. This earth is a being just like we're a being.
mm-hmm.
And her evolution is also to evolve herself and raise her vibration. So
Right.
the nice thing about this is there's a lot of people out there who may not be consciously aware of or even have the intention of raising their own vibration, but just because they're living on this earth that is constantly rising in vibration, whether they have the intent or anything, or they're actually working on it, their vibration is raising anyway.
Yes.
Okay. And this is why you have a lot of people all of a sudden awakening, like these people that were dead asleep. They didn't actually do anything to try to wake themselves up. Okay. They had no intentionality to that whatsoever. The reason they're waking up is because of the energy of the earth itself raising in vibration. So I kind of look at that too. Okay. This is totally my rational scientific brain going, okay, if that's happening to us as human beings, okay, if we do start having AI that becomes conscious, and what we just talked about, everything is energy, then that energy is also going to be affected by the fact that the earth is rising in vibration. Okay. So, there's that part of it too.
Yeah. 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 And I've had that, what do you want to call it, knowledge or wisdom for a while. I mean, that's kind of what's been following me a little bit, is just that whole fact that the earth is raising in vibration. We
Yeah.
all are at the same time, whether we, like you say, whether we know it or not.
Like it's not. Yeah.
And some of us awaken, and it's pretty shocking, when you've come from a space where you were not, you knew nothing. I hear about people who do ayahuasca and they go into it proving that there's nothing, right? And they're very scientific and logical, and they go in, and then
I see what you're saying. Okay. Yeah.
just completely confused about life in general, because they have an experience that they can't deny. And so there's that too. You've got a lot of people on the planet that are rightfully very confused about where they are.
Well, and that's, that's an interesting thing. And I think that's why I call this psychedelics 2.0. Okay. Seriously, there was a psychedelic opening back in the 60s. Okay. It was LSD and DMT and all that. They were doing all the experiments, and that was all going on in the 60s. So that was the first wave of the psychedelics. Now we're experiencing here and now the real big, because you mentioned ayahuasca, which I put up my hand because I've actually done ayahuasca myself and had some pretty wild experiences. What they've shown is people can have not just ayahuasca. That's ayahuasca has been used for, it's jungle medicine, it's plant medicine, it's shamanistic, it's one of the indigenous forms of medicine. It's been used. Trust me, I've done it, and it's not a recreational drug of any sort. And anybody who could possibly think that ayahuasca was a recreational high has definitely never done ayahuasca and has no idea what happens to you when you take it, because it's a brutal experience and you get very ill, very, very ill through what they call the purging process. And it's definitely not something that you would do unless you were looking for deep, deep healing, and it has nothing to do with recreation. But what they found with all these hallucinogenics is that they are incredible healers for things that have been very, very difficult to heal. Anxiety, depression, physical healing. They've had miraculous physical, mental, and emotional healings with some of these, and psilocybin, magic mushrooms. That's another big one. Peyote, all these things come out of the shamanic indigenous world and have been used for hundreds and thousands of years, depending on what you're talking about, where you're talking about. But we're just finding out now how incredibly healing there are with some things that we've never been able to heal. But I'm going to give a disclaimer here. These are substances not to be messed with, okay? And if you're thinking of doing it, you have to have a very conscious intention of healing something very serious within you. And it should not be something to dabble with, and it should be something only done with true experienced healers. Okay, there's a lot of people out there claiming to be this, and trust me, they're not. Okay, it takes a long time. Like when I did ayahuasca, I did it with a man who he had been in training to be a shaman for 40 years. Okay, he was the ayahuasca, and it was done in a very controlled and a very safe environment. And there's a lot of scammers out there now, and like in everything else, and some really really nasty things have happened to people, because when you're under the influence of these drugs, you are totally vulnerable. You have to be in a very safe environment. You have to be with people that you know are going to take care of you, because really nasty things can happen to you. Okay, I'm not going to go into, I don't even want to give voice to some of those things, but I'm just saying, if this is where you want to go. And I'm going to tell you right now, I was led to this. Okay, I was led to this. It wasn't something that I just thought, oh, you know, this sounds good, I'm going to go and do this. Okay, I was led to it through part of my healing journey after I suddenly lost my partner, and my life imploded and exploded, and a whole bunch of things all happened at the same time. So not something to be dabbled with lightly. Okay, I just want to make sure, because there's too much of that going around right now. When something becomes the thing, people just go into it with the wrong intentions and very lightly, and don't take it seriously enough. So there's my soapbox. But I don't believe there's enough people saying those kinds of things. There's too many people out there thinking that this is just some great, I'm going to go have this, you know, spiritual experience. That yes, you can do that, but people have gotten themselves into trouble. Okay, and there are people that have had psychiatric breaks because they weren't properly prepared, and they had some issues that should have been dealt with before they went on their journey. Okay, so that's anyway, we'll leave that there.
Yeah, well, and I know, like, I mean, there are all kinds of tools out there, and this is one of them. And
yeah, it's not for everyone.
No,
that's for sure.
and like you say, you need to be led, and it's not a road that I've ever been led down, and I can't see it in the foreseeable. I'll never say never, because I know how that works. But it's like we all have our way of working through our challenges, and that is one way that some people do it. And it's fascinating that we even got into that topic.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you why we did, because they're just cueing me now that we've been through all that. The reason is, when I went through my ayahuasca journey, and I mean, I did a retreat for 3 weeks. This wasn't, I did ayahuasca once and that was it. I had many journeys on ayahuasca, and one of the most wild one was where I was guided through multi-dimensions. This is how we got here. This is why we got here. Okay.
There we go.
Very different by ayahuasca herself. Okay. And ayahuasca is the spirit of the divine, and she's a representation of the divine feminine. She shows up in 3 forms. One is the crone, one is the maiden, and one is the serpent. Okay. She showed herself to me as the serpent, which was really takes you back, because she's giant, like cobra kind of. When I say serpent, I mean like really scary. So she took me on a journey through the underworld, which is again a representation of another dimensional reality. And then I went to several higher dimensionalities, which I cannot even describe to you, because they had laws and different appearances. This is what I mean by every dimension. Some dimensions are very, very similar to ours, and some don't even have the same laws or anything. So this is what I'm talking about. So I had the fortune of experiencing all these different dimensional reality constructs.
Yeah.
And it was, and each one, I think I brought something different back from. Some of this I remember consciously, and some I know is just in layers in my subconscious.
Mm-hmm.
But as we know, what's in your subconscious is often what is the problems, like people's problems, both emotional and psychological, often are things that are buried in their subconscious. And also things that get embedded in our subconscious can be extremely healing, and they can give us strength, and they can determine what happens in our greater world. So there's all these levels of things.
Yeah.
And so this is why I believe that some of these psychedelics can be so incredibly healing, because they can delve right into the problems which are buried deeply a lot of times in our subconscious.
Mm-hmm.
I think the subconscious mind is more than science would give credit to. I think it's also, this is going to get really wild. I think it's also an energetic,
Wild.
we might as well go right down the rabbit hole. I think our subconscious mind, if you talk to a psychologist or a psychiatrist, they'd be delving into all these different levels of the mind, and they would think of it as the physical brain, and this is happening in this portion of the brain and that portion of the brain. Again, we have energy bodies, and I think our subconscious mind is not only a function of our physical brain, it's also has functionality in our energy bodies. And I think this is a big part of why psychedelics can also help and heal people, is because they are extremely energetic, and they can go into these different parts of our energy bodies, and whether that be our internal energy system or the energy bodies that surround our physical body.
Right.
When I talk about an internal energy system, I'm talking about our chakras, our meridians, all those things are actually part of the physical body. But we also, of course, as most everybody knows, we have layers of energy bodies that actually surround our physical body as well.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot going on that we don't even understand exactly how it works.
Yeah, way more than we can.
We know that's there, but we don't really understand truly how it works.
Right.
And
Right.
you'll have a lot of people try to tell you that they understand how it works. But I've been told over and over that we just have about this much understanding. I
Yeah.
can see the distance between my thumb and my finger of how it really works.
Mm-hmm.
I don't claim by any stretch of the imagination to understand how everything works. I just go by what I've been shown and what I've learned from my own experience. And I know it's about this much, but it's way more than people that know this much.
Yeah. Well, and I always think that you should expose yourself and listen to different perspectives and
Exactly. Yeah.
things. And it's not that you have to adopt those. You can absolutely say, you know what, Laura, you're off your you don't know what you're talking about.
Oh, I've been told many things along that line.
And there's this being introduced to something new, and then down the road you may attach it to something else, and it may become yours or it won't, whatever. Yeah. I always think that we need to be open to listen to some of this stuff, and you can feel your energy push the things that you don't resonate with. You can feel that going back and forth. I'm feeling it as
I love what you said, though, because that's so true. Because I became aware of some things years and years ago, and I didn't really resonate with them, and I didn't really believe them. Mm-hmm. And then as you grow and as you evolve and as you learn other things, all of a sudden it's like, oh, I remember hearing about that, 20 years ago, and I didn't really connect with it then. But I know now, from what I know now and where I stand now, I know that that's absolute truth for me. And that's the thing, is you have to be, like you said, you have to be open, because you might not resonate with it now, just because you're not at that level, at that, you know, of your evolution. But, you know, who knows, a year from now or 5 years from now, it could make total sense, you know?
Yeah.
And actually, honest to God, the speed with things, the speed at which things are happening and shifting and changing right now, and all the energy that's coming into the earth, you could not believe it today, and 2 weeks from now you could go, holy cow, I know that that's absolutely true.
Right.
Because that is literally how fast the energy is changing. And I just keep getting told over and over again, and not only told, but also 1, 2, 3. That's hilarious. That's a countdown. 1, 2, 3. They brought my site to my clock on my screen. And because we're talking about how things are speeding up. It's like 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And
Right.
it just keeps getting faster, you know, and it's not even linear anymore. This is what a lot of people don't understand, because human beings have been trapped in this linear thinking for so long. I've been told over and over again by my guides, and shown in other ways, that we're no longer in a linear progression. We're in a geometric progression, which is 2, 4, 6, 8. This is why time is speeding up, because this is my physics talking. I came from a science background. I'm actually glad I had a good science background, because if you stay in a linear form, that has a cap on it. That has a cap on how fast things can happen. So this is why we're going geometric, as opposed, we're going to be going into quantum pretty quick now. And my understanding of quantum is not the best. The only thing I can equate it to is like light speed. I think of quantum as in Star Trek. It's like warp speed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And lots of people are talking about quantum healing and how quickly, instantly that can be.
That can happen. Yeah, like what used to take, you know, years or decades or something, can also be accomplished in maybe a few days or a week. I've been asked the question, well, how are these people ever going to catch up? Meaning the people that are totally asleep and have never been exposed to all the things that we've been talking about.
Well,
Like,
listen.
let's face it, we've been exposed to this stuff for decades, right? You know, literally decades.
Yeah.
I started well, if you want to get technical, I started my spiritual journey as a child, and definitely in my early teens. Okay. And I went up and down through that journey, but that's how long I've been consciously. Let's just say I was definitely unconsciously on my journey when I was in my 20s. Okay. So I've been at this a long time. Okay. But there's people who have never been exposed to this stuff, never thought about it. And I keep getting asked, how are these people ever going to get up to speed?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And I just go, it's because, you know, we spend all this time, they're going to go into it like that. Like people, I don't care what age they're at now, whether they're 25 or 75. Okay. And they've never been exposed to this stuff. They will be able to catch up like that, which I kind of go, that's not fair.
Yeah, I have to go through all of this. But it's about the journey.
But it also encourages me, and I go, wow, that's great. Because there was a while there too, and I used to go, well, because the mass of people, because it used to be let's face it, it used to be a very small group of people who were actually spiritually aware or doing anything like intentionally. Okay. And the mass of the people, and I'm going, there's such a huge mass of people. How are they ever going to get there? And my guy just go, they'll get there like that. And I'm just like, that's not fair.
Yeah.
But the whole point is, all of us forerunners are here to help them get there like that. Because if we weren't here to help them, then it would be very difficult for that to happen.
Yes.
So that's why.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it's always, you know, to be an early adopter is.
Yeah.
I just say I'm the original, you know, that phrase just became popular in the last few years. Okay. They talk about people being early adopters as in the latest cell phones and the latest clothing and whatever it is, right? And I say, no. I'm the original. early adopter. Okay. It has nothing to do with material stuff.
Yeah,
But
exactly. And we can get into that kind of place where we think that, we're further ahead. But in the end, we're all just on this journey. We're all just on our own journey and we're on our own.
exactly, everyone is evolving. It's
Right.
just like that saying. I love that spiritual saying that it's an Eastern saying. I think it came from the East originally. There's so many different paths up the mountain. And
Mhm.
how can you say that your path up the mountain is better than anybody else's path? It's just
Right.
different.
Yeah. 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 Well, and we need support on our journey, don't we? So it's good to have people to walk the journey with, like you.
Well, that's the thing, right? And like I always say to people, I'm not everybody's cup of tea.
Mhm.
There's certain people who are going to be attracted and want to work with me, and there's other people who are going to be attracted to other people. I've said to people, if everybody was meant to work with me, there'd only be one of me. And
Yeah.
boy, would I ever be busy. And there's people at all different levels of involvement. And at different levels of involvement, you need different kinds of help.
Yeah.
So we need people at all those different levels.
Mhm. Yeah.
And not just levels, but also, like you're saying, different things. Like psychedelics might be a way for some people. Talk therapy, rebirthing, energy healing. There's all these different tools
Mhm.
that can help us and can help different people. All of them are not for everybody, but there's so many of them
Mhm.
that I think that everybody can find something that they feel comfortable with and that works for them.
Absolutely.
And this is what bothers me, this idea of sameness, that everybody has to speak and do and talk and take the same kind of action, because it's simply not true. Like spirit tells us that all the time,
Right.
that you have to follow your own intuition. You have to follow what resonates with you. And I think that's where we got started. You have to choose what resonates with you. And just because it resonates with somebody else doesn't mean it's going to work for you.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Well, this has been delightful. Again, it's like
We didn't know where we were going with this, but
oh,
we went down a lot of rabbit holes.
there's a lot of things I'm sure my audience is going, what did she do? But you know what? What I'm saying is just, keep an open mind, and we don't have to take all of this in. We can take what we want and leave the rest, whatever. But it's another perspective.
Exactly. That is another huge spiritual principle. Take what resonates and leave the rest.
Mhm.
You don't have to swallow things whole.
Yeah.
But there's an energy out there where it's trying to drive people into that idea of, if you want to do something, you have to swallow that whole group of ideas and philosophies and everything whole. You can't pick and choose. That's the problem I see in organized religion,
Mhm.
is that all of them, and I'm not going to pick on anyone, but all of the organized religion want you to swallow their whole doctrine whole. And
Mhm.
if you don't believe the whole shooting match, then you don't belong there.
Right.
We're gonna excommunicate you, or we're gonna kick you out of our group, because if you want to be with us, you've got to believe everything we say.
Right.
And that's why organized religion, I think why so many people have moved away from it, because it's not serving them. And I see, even with spirituality, I say to people, if your spirituality is not helping you in your day-to-day life, what good is it?
Mhm. Yeah.
Okay. The same thing with religion. Okay. I deal with people from every walk of life, from every religion, from every belief system. And it doesn't mean that I can't work with them, or they can't get something from me or something from you. But you have to look at it and say, is that, whatever your belief system is, whether it's an organized religion or just a set of beliefs, is it helping you in your day-to-day life?
Mhm.
And if it's not making your life better, then it's not serving you. And then you have to take another look and say, okay, well, maybe I have to look elsewhere. And I think that's what's really happening these days. I think it's been happening for quite a while, but I think now it's kind of reached a crescendo where people just aren't willing to do it just because that's the way they were brought up, or that's the way somebody told them it should be.
Yeah.
They just have an expanded view of how they can work spirit in other ways.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah.
You know, I think that's a wonderful thing. And I think that's what we all have to do. We all have to sort of allow space to bring other things that serve us
Mm-hmm.
into our belief system. And if it works for us, it gives us comfort, it gives us healing, it makes our lives better, then we need to be adding that to our tool belt. I talk about having a tool belt and tucking all the tools into your tool belt. You've got those things, and they don't necessarily all come from one place.
No, absolutely not. So tell people again how they can find you.
Okay, well, you can find me on my website at www.spiritspeaks2.me. The easiest way, if you want to talk to me and find out some information, is to email me directly. It's really easy. It's laurahoorweg@gmail.com. I'm all over Facebook. You can DM me on Facebook, join my Facebook group. I'm on Instagram. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm not everywhere, but I'm a lot of different places. But if you're interested in information on my work and working with me, probably the easiest way is to have a look at my website and email me and contact me that way.
Perfect. Well, thank you again for this.
It was so much fun. It was totally, I never know what to expect coming on here. I never know where we're going to go.
It's all good. Well, thank you again. And thanks everyone for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.